Hi and welcome to today's video in the Study Unifees Daily With series. Today's video is all about writing compound complex sentences. As you know, to enrich your writing, it is very necessary to write in a variety of sentences. In previous lessons, we have learned how to write compound sentences. We have also learned how to write two kinds of complex sentences. Complex sentences with adjectival clauses and complex sentences with adverbial clauses. Today, we'll be learning how to construct a compound complex sentence. Firstly, what are compound complex sentences? These are sentences that combine the elements of both the compound as well as the complex. Because they use the elements of the compound sentence, they must have two independent clauses at least. Because they use the elements of the complex sentence, these sentences must have at least one dependent clause. We'll see in a little while from now how this works out. But first, let's understand the importance of using this kind of sentence, the compound complex sentence. So, what are the advantages of writing compound complex sentences? Firstly, you demonstrate to your reader that you are comfortable using a very advanced sentence structure to communicate your thoughts and ideas. This showcases the complexity in depth that you have used in communicating these ideas. Secondly, you also demonstrate to the reader that you can write advanced structures. So, it is recommended that first you learn how to write these sentences and then start using them, incorporating them in your own writing. If you are a test prep student for IELTS, TOEFL or PTE, this is one skill, that is, using a variety of sentences, that is very important in writing your essays. Even if you're not a test prep student, you simply want to improve your writing skills, then using a variety of sentences, and yes, using this most advanced sentence is also very important. Now, let's understand what actually the compound complex sentence is. Firstly, let's read through the whole example and understand the sentence as a whole. He started the engine and the others clambered into the car, even though the weather was terrible and the roads icy. Now, we already know that compound complex sentences use the element of the compound, and this is the compound. Note, he started the engine is an independent because it can stand alone by itself as a sentence. Also, the others clambered into the car is an independent because it too can stand alone as a sentence by itself. These two independents are joined by a coordinating conjunction, which is and. However, after the compound element, there is a complex element used. Even though the weather was terrible and the roads icy is an adverbial clause, a dependent clause, which has been added to the compound. So together, the compound and the dependent adverbial clause make up this compound complex sentence. Now, let's see some examples of compound complex sentences with adverbial clauses. Let's read the first example together. The professor gave the whole class a project, but most of the students did not want to do it because it involved a lot of time and effort. First, let's identify the compound element. And this is the compound element. The first independent clause is, the professor gave the whole class a project. The second independent clause is, most of the students did not want to do it. In between, there is a coordinating conjunction, but. Now, this compound construction is followed by an adverbial. The adverbial here is because it involved a lot of time and effort. The adverbial, as we can see, starts with a subordinating conjunction. It is followed by the subject it and the verb involved. Here the adverbial is used for a cause. It showcases a cause and effect relationship between one of the independent clauses and the adverbial clause. So this is a good example of using a compound and an adverbial clause to construct a compound complex sentence. Now let's read through the second example together. The manager cautioned the employee against being rude to customers, but he did not fire him, though the company manuals recommended firing such employees. Here, first, there is the compound element. The first independent in the compound is the manager cautioned the employee against being rude to customers. The second independent is, but he did not fire him. When the compound element is finished, then the adverbial has been introduced in this example. Here, the adverbial is initiated by though, the subordinate conjunction. Though is chosen for a relationship of contrast or a relationship of irony, the sense of the unexpected. This clause, though the company manuals recommended firing such employees, has a relationship of the unexpected with did not fire him. Now, let's look at two examples of a compound complex sentence using adjectival clauses. We have learnt about adjectival clauses in a past lesson. These are basically clauses that describe nouns in the independent clause. Let's read through the first example. She studied diligently for the exam, which was scheduled for Friday, yet she still felt nervous about her performance. First, let's look at the compound element here. The compound, as usual, is made up of two independents. This is the first independent. She studied diligently for the exam. And this is the second. She still felt nervous about her performance. In between, there is the conjunction yet, which is a coordinating conjunction. However, between these two independents, there is an adjective clause. Which was scheduled for Friday is the adjective clause, which basically modifies the noun exam. It tells us more about this noun exam. Which exam? This question is answered. And the answer is the one that was scheduled for Friday. Now, let's look at the second example. Let's read it together. He did not want to buy the car, which was quite old and decrepit, but his wife said it was cheap and a great bargain. Here too, the two independents are, firstly, he did not want to buy the car, and secondly, his wife said that it was cheap and a great bargain. In between these two independents, there is the coordinating conjunction, but. Also in between the two independents is the adjectival clause, which was quite old and decrepit. This adjectival clause modifies the noun car. So, this is one more way of constructing a compound complex sentence. Now, I would like to make one more point about the punctuation in compound complex sentences. Firstly, if two independent clauses in a compound complex sentence are following each other. Now, before we progress, I would like to make a small point about punctuation in compound complex sentences. When two independent clauses follow each other in a compound complex, always use the comma to separate the two. Look at this example. Let's read it together. He went to the toilet but discovered it was dirty because it had not been cleaned recently. Here the two independents are, he went to the toilet and discovered that it was dirty. The coordinating conjunction in between these two is but. Note, a comma has been used to separate these two clauses. Next, another situation where it is almost mandatory to use a comma. When the compound complex sentence is initiated by the adverbial clause, as you can see in this example. Let's read it together. Though he did not want to travel to London, he was forced to do so, and his team were also forced to accompany him. This is basically a compound complex sentence because it has one compound element. He was forced to do so is an independent, followed by another independent. His team were also forced to accompany him. However, this compound complex sentence starts with an adverbial clause. The adverbial clause is, though he did not want to travel to London. Whenever the compound complex sentence is initiated by the adverbial, always separate the adverbial from the rest of the sentence by using a comma. Now, if you want to make a compound complex sentence, first think about the compound element. Remember, it must have two clauses. Each of these two clauses must stand alone as a complete sentence. Now, once you have constructed the compound element, think about the complex element. Either add an adverbial to it or add an adjectival clause. To add an adverbial, start off with a subordinating conjunction. To add an adjectival, start off with a relative pronoun. Again, let's talk about the benefits of using compound complex sentences. First, it shows a degree of sophistication in your writing. Because you are joining two independent clauses together with a coordinating conjunction, and then joining this whole sentence to a dependent clause with a subordinating conjunction. This is a kind of construction that only advanced writers use. It basically demonstrates that you are comfortable using the most advanced structure. This is very impressive to a reader if the whole structure is used correctly. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more insightful videos like this. Connect with Study Unifees for your plans to improve your English or study abroad. To connect with us, simply log on to studyunifees.io. Till then, all the best and take care.